Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Dear students, welcome in another class of non-fiction prose. I'm your instructor, Samina Bashir. In earlier lecture of Truth by Sir Francis Bacon, we have discussed the summary analysis, some introductory points, summary in nutshell, the writing style of Sir Francis Bacon, the overall diction and style of Truth, and overall essays. Meanwhile, we have discussed some quotations. So in this lecture we will see and we will discuss line by line analysis, the detailed analysis of Truth. First of all, I will start with some text. I will read some text for you people, and then I'll elaborate and explain those with that very text. So let's start. What is truth? Said jesting Pilate, and would not stay for an answer. What is the meaning of this line? Here Francis Bacon refers to Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor who punished the Jesus Christ, and Pilate occupied a position of influence in Emperor Tiberius' court. For his involvement in the persecution of Jesus Christ, Pilate wasn't looked upon favorably by Christians. He enjoyed a somewhat sullied reputation. And here Bacon takes Pilate's name to exemplify that how humans in general avoid truth. They find truth inconvenient and insignificant and difficult to imbibe, difficult to digest. Certainly there be that delight in giddiness and count it a bondage to fix a belief affecting free will in thinking as well as in acting. So this is the second line of the of Truth. Meaning of this line is that people usually do not seek truth and enjoy resorting to falsehood and lies. People like ambiguity, falsehoodness, and inaccuracy so that they can couch the harshness of truth in convenient language. Next one. And though the sects of philosophers of that kind be gone, yet there remain certain discoursing wits which are of the same veins, though there be not so much blood in them as was in those of the ancients. The meaning of these lines, Bacon's took us back to the ancient Greek philosophers. He put some examples of Greek philosophers who often lost their way while looking to ascertain what really truth was. He laments the fact that some of these independent-minded, free-thinking philosophers proposed that there was nothing real as truth. But while trying to prove the contrary, they soon wavered and came out with conflicting decisions. So these type of thinkers or these type of philosophers have all but ceased to exist. The present day once lacked the rigor and verve of the ancient great minds. They are paler versions of their illustrious predecessors. Nevertheless, they too doubt the existence of truth and tend to drift towards falsehood. The next lines, but it is not only the difficulty and labor which men take in finding out of truth, nor again that when it is found it imposed upon man's thoughts, that doth bring lies in favor, but a natural though corrupt love of the lie itself. What is the meaning of these lines? Undoubtedly, people do make very sincere and strenuous attempts to discover truth. Why? Because they succeed, but regrettably, they find the burden and demands of truth to be unbearable. Expediently, they abandon the pursuit of truth and drifts towards lies, knowingly very well that resorting to lies is degrading. The world of lies is dark, but people somehow develop a fascination and imagination for lies at the expense of truth. So, lie attracts the people. One of the later school of the Grecians examined the matter, and it is at a stand to think what should be in it, that man should love lies, where neither they make for pleasure as with poets, nor for advantage as with the merchant, but for the lie's sake. So some ancient Greek philosophers of later periods delved into this matter, that they tried to know why and what attracts people towards lies. In poetry, some distortion of truth adds to a poem's literary beauty, so allowance needs to be made to accommodate fantasy and fiction, as they enhance the reader's literary pleasure. Merchants and traders resort to a certain amount of falsehood to entice the customers to buy their merchandise. But why do common folks resort to lies despite knowing its own unsavory consequences? So it is worth thinking that why common folk or common people like the lies despite of truth. So it is worth thinking. But I cannot tell the same truth is a naked and open daylight, that doth not show the masks and mummeries and triumphs of the world half so stately and daintily as candle lights. The meaning of these lines are that truth depicts everything very honestly, faithfully, and transparently. There is no place for extravagant praise or derision, superficial description, or sycophantic eulogy in truth. Emperors or rulers of or heroes and military commanders and other men and women of prominence who are at their prominent positions are described with the minimum laudatory language. Truth builds no artificial aura of greatness around them. So bereft of their unrealistic praise, they appear vastly diminished in stature. Truth may perhaps come to the price of a pearl that showeth best by day, but it will not rise to the price of a diamond or carbuncle that showeth best in varied lights. Meaning of these lines are: a pearl shines in the day, a diamond or carbuncle glow at night, giving an unreal feeling of light in the midst of total darkness. Truth is like a pearl, it shows what is visible to the naked eye. It can't show anything by lighting up something unrealistically. Only falsehood has that capacity to make something apparent in total darkness. A mixture of a lie doth ever add pleasure, doth any man doubt. That if there were taken out of men's minds vain opinions, flattering hopes, false valuations, imaginations, as one would, and the like, but it would leave the minds of a number of men poor, shrunken things, full of melancholy and indisposition, and unpleasing to themselves, meaning a cocktail of lies and truth has the potency to please humans more than only lies or only truth. Bacon paradoxically suggests the utility of such combination of lies and truth. If everything is portrayed in their true colors with no addition of superficial praise, flattering comments and allusions, the society will appear drab and indolent. Vanity and aggrandizement induce creativity, energy, and intellectual activity. For example, if a poet is not felicitated or a player is not rewarded, how will they be motivated to reach higher levels of accomplishments? While showering praise, use of a certain amount of unreal descriptions of one's feat is needed. It is necessary. Otherwise, the praise will be bland and ineffective. One of the fathers in great severity called poesy vinum gemonum, means devil's wine, because it filleth the imagination, and yet it is but with the shadow of a lie, but it is not the lie that passed through the mind, but the lie that sinketh in and settleth in it, that doth the hurt, such as we spake of before. So, meaning of these lines are: some very revered man of great wisdom denigrated poetry, saying it contained lies. They felt the poet as fiction, exaggerations, allusions, etc. to his poem to impart it some charm and attraction for the reader. But I cannot tell the same truth is a naked and open daylight that doth not show the masks and mummeries and triumphs of the world half so stately and daintily as candlelights. The meaning of but howsoever these things are thus in men's depraved judgments and affections. Yet truth, which only doth judge itself, teacheth that the inquiry of truth, which is the love making or wooing of it, the knowledge of truth, which is the presence of it, and the belief of truth, which is the enjoying of it, is the sovereign good of human nature. So, lies undoubtedly deprave the mind, affect the mind. Truth, on the other hand, remains unblemished always. It is absolute and doesn't lend itself to different interpretations. A mixture of a lie doth ever add pleasure, doth any man doubt. That if there were taken out of men's minds vain opinions, flattering hopes, false valuations, imaginations, as one would, and the like, but it would leave the mind. The first creature of God in the works of the days was the light of the sense, the last was the light of reason, and his subtle work ever since is the illumination of his spirit. First he breathed light upon the face of the matter or chaos, then he breathed light into the face of man, and still he breathed and inspired light into the face of his chosen. When God created the world and created the man, he gave the light of sense to the mankind. Using this light, human beings could see and feel the world around them. Then God gave the power of reason. Using this faculty, human beings could reason what was good or bad in the things happening or being said around them. As a result of this reason, human beings got the power of enlightenment, internal insight. And after this, God radiated light that illuminated the world which was so disorderly then. Then his light fell on human beings to make them superior in knowledge and wisdom to other species. After this, he focused his kindly light on the face of those human beings whom he loved most, who are actually chosen. The poet that beautified the sect that was otherwise inferior to the rest saith yet excellently well, it is a pleasure to stand upon the shore and to see ships tossed upon the sea, a pleasure to stand in the window of a castle and to see a battle and the adventures thereof below. But no pleasure is comparable to the standing upon the vantage ground of truth, a hill not to be commended, and where the air is always clear and serene, and to these the errors and wanderings and mists and tempests in the vale below, so always that this prospect be with pity and not with swelling or pride. Certainly it is heaven upon earth to have a man's mind move in charity, rest in providence, and turn upon the poles of truth. The last line and the last some phrases are very important from here, that certainly it is heaven upon earth to have a man's mind move in charity, rest in providence, and turn upon the poles of truth. When one stands in the sea beach and gets to see ships being rocked violently by the winds, it becomes a breathtaking experience, wonderful experience. In the same way, one can stand by the window of a high castle and watch the fight raging below. This also is a unique experience. In the same way, when a human being can realize truth, he can feel as if he stands atop a high mountain enjoying its beauty and bliss. That how beautiful the truth is and how blissful the truth is. But attaining such an exalted status must not make the man to feel proud, yet be humble. Instead, He should be humble and benign towards others. He should engage in charity. To pass from theological and philosophical truth to the truth of civil business, it will be acknowledged even by those that practice it, not that clear and around dealing dealing is the honor of man's nature, and that mixture of falsehood is like alloy in coin of gold and silver, which may make the metal work the better, but it embeds it. For this winding and crooked courses are the goings of the serpent, which goeth basely upon the belly and not upon the feet. There is no wise that does so cover a man with shame as to be found false and perfidious. And therefore Montaigne saith prettily, when he inquired the reason why the word of the lie should be such a disgrace and such an odious charge. Meaning, theosophical and philosophical truth belong to a certain domain. While dealing with our day-to-day mundane matters, one finds it difficult to stick to the truth always, to make his business and dealings smoother, easier, comparatively relaxive. He mixes some lies to his dealings to add some charm, to beautify them with the use of lies. This at times appears to be a practical necessity, unavoidable necessity. Although he might succeed and emerge a winner, such conduct is vile and degrading. Morally vile and degrading. It is like an alloy where a foreign element is added in small quantities to a metal like gold and silver to give it more strength and toughness. However, such alloying robs the silver or gold of its luster. It is like a snake. So here he put an example that it is like a snake that moves on its belly always and can never stand up erect and upright. This is why eminent men like Montaigne declared that falsehood was universally degrading and loathsome. As a result of this reason, human beings got the power of enlightenment, internal insight, and after this God radiated light that illuminated the world, which was so disorderly then. Then his light fell on human beings to make them superior in knowledge and wisdom to other species. After this, he focused his kindly light on the face of those human beings whom he loved most, who are actually chosen. The poet that beautified the sect that was otherwise inferior to the rest saith yet excellently well, it is a pleasure to stand upon the shore and to see ships tossed upon the sea, a pleasure to stand in the window of a castle and to see a battle and the adventures thereof below. But no pleasure is comparable to the standing upon the vantage ground of truth, a hill not to be commended, and where the air is always clear and serene, and to these the errors and wanderings and mists and tempests in the vale below, so always that this prospect be with pity and not with swelling or pride. But Perhaps the first important element of Bacon's essay of truth is his argument that men should love lies, where neither they make for pleasure as with poets, nor for advantage as with the merchant, but for the lie's sake. In other words, one of the difficulties in seeking the truth, in finding the truth, is that men love lying for its own sake because they get some pleasure from lying and do not get the same pleasure from truth. Means he gets pleasure from lying, and he don't get any pleasure from truth. So this is the difference between lie and truth. To pass from theological and philosophical truth to the truth of civil business, it will be acknowledged even by those that practice it, not that clear and around dealing dealing is the honor of man's nature, and that mixture of falsehood is like alloy in coin. A mixture of a lie doth ever add pleasure, doth any man doubt that if there were taken out of men's minds vain opinions, flattering hopes, false valuations, imaginations, as one would, and the like, but it would leave the minds of a number of men poor, shrunken things, full of melancholy and indisposition, and unpleasing to themselves, meaning a cocktail of lies and truth has the potency to please humans more than only lies or only truth. Bacon paradoxically suggests the utility of such combination of lies and truth. Meaning, theosophical and philosophical truth belong to a certain domain. While dealing with our day to day mundane matters, one finds it difficult to stick to the truth always, to make his business and dealings smoother, easier, comparatively relaxed. But whosoever, however, these things are thus in man's depraved judgments and affections. Yet truth, which only doth judge itself, teacheth that the inquiry of truth, which is the love making or wooing of it, the knowledge of truth, which is the presence of it, and the belief of truth, which is the enjoying of it, is the sovereign good of human nature. So, lies undoubtedly deprave the mind, affect the mind. Truth, on the other hand, remains unblemished always. It is absolute and doesn't lend itself to different interpretations. The first creature of God in the works of the days was the light of the sense, the last was the light of reason, and his subtle work ever since is the illumination of his spirit. First he breathed light upon the face of the matter or chaos, then he breathed light into the face of man, and still he breathed and inspired light into the face of his Jew. In the end, I would like to tell you that Bacon's works are credited with developing the scientific method and remained influential through the scientific revolution, as I have told you earlier. Bacon has been called the father of empiricism, and his works argued for the possibility of scientific knowledge based only upon inductive reasoning and careful observation of events in nature. Most importantly, he argued science could be achieved by use of a skeptical and methodical approach, whereby scientists aim to avoid misleading themselves. Uh, Although his practical ideas about such a method, the Baconian method, didn't have a long lasting influence, the general idea of the importance and possibility of skeptical methodology makes Bacon the father of the scientific method. This method was a new rhetorical and theoretical framework for science, the practical details of which are still central in debates about science and methodology. Francis Bacon was a patron of libraries and developed a functional system for the cataloging of books by dividing them into three categories: history, poetry, and philosophy, and which could further be divided into more specific subjects and subheadings. So, Bacon was the first recipient of the Queen's Council's designation, which was conferred in 1597 when Elizabeth I of England reserved Bacon as her legal advisor after the accession of James IV and one in 1603. Bacon was knighted. He was later created Baron Verulam in 1618 and Viscount St. Alban in 1621. So, Bacon's studies brought him to the belief that the methods and results of science as then practiced were erroneous. His reverence for Aristotle conflicted with his rejection of Aristotelian philosophy, which seemed to him barren, disputatious, and wrong in its objectives. So, in this way, he became known as a liberal minded reformer, eager to amend and simplify the law. Though a friend of the crown, he opposed feudal privileges and dictatorial powers. He spoke against religious persecutions. He struck at the House of Lords in the disruption of the money bills. He advocated for the union of England and Scotland, which made him a significant influence toward the consolidation of the United Kingdom, and the later would advocate for the integration of Ireland into the Union. Closer constitutional ties, he believed, would bring greater peace and strength to these countries. So, Bacon was a devout Anglican. He believed that philosophy and the natural world must be studied inductively, but argued that we can only study arguments for the existence of God. Information on his attributes, such as nature, action, and purposes, can only come from special revelation. But Bacon also held that knowledge was cumulative, that study encompassed more than a simple preservation of the past. Knowledge is the rich storehouse for the glory of the Creator and the relief of man's estate. He wrote in his essays, he affirms that a little philosophy inclineth man's mind to atheism, but depth in philosophy bringeth man's minds about to religion. Bacon's ideas of Bacon's idea of idols of the mind may have self-consciously represented an attempt to Christianize science at the same time as developing a new, reliable scientific method. Bacon gave worship of Neptune as an example of the idola tribus fallacy, hinting at the religious dimensions of his critique of the idols. And Francis Bacon's philosophy is displayed in the vast and varied writings he left, which might be divided into three great branches. The first branch, scientific works. In scientific works, his ideas for a universal reform of knowledge into scientific methodology and the improvement of mankind's state using the scientific method are presented. Number second was religious and literary works, and in this branch he presents his moral philosophy and theological mediations. And the last one is judicial works, in which his reforms in English law are proposed. When we talk about his influence on science, we see that Bacon's menial work Novum Organum was influential in the 1630 and 1650s among scholars, in particular Sir Thomas Browne, who in his encyclopedia Pseudodoxia Epidemicia, which was published during 1646 to 72, written between 1646 to 72, frequently adheres to a Baconian approach to his scientific inquiries. And this book entails the basis of the scientific method as a means of observation and induction. According to Francis Bacon, learning and knowledge all derive from the basis of inductive reasoning. Through his belief of experimental encounters, he theorized that all the knowledge that was necessary to full understand a concept could be attainable because of induction. In order to get to the point of an inductive conclusion, one must consider the importance of observing the particulars, specific parts of nature. Once these particulars have been gathered together, the interpretation of nature proceeds by sorting them into a formal arrangement so that they may be presented to the understanding. Experimentation is essential to discovering the truths of nature. When an experiment happens, parts of the tested hypothesis are started to be pieced together, forming a result and conclusion. Through this conclusion of particulars, an understanding of nature can be formed. Now that an understanding of nature has been arrived at, an inductive conclusion can be drawn. And for no one successfully investigates the nature of a thing in the thing itself, and the inquiry must be enlarged to things that have more in common with it. Francis Bacon explains how we come to this understanding and knowledge because of this process in comprehending the complexities of nature. Bacon sees nature as an extremely subtle complexity which affords all the energy of the natural philosopher to disclose her secrets. Bacon described the evidence and proof revealed through taking a specific example from nature and expanding that example into a general substantial claim of nature. Once we understand the particulars in nature, we can learn more about it and become surer of things occurring in nature, gaining knowledge and obtaining new information all the while. It is nothing less than a revival of Bacon's supremely confident belief that inductive methods can provide us with ultimate and infallible answers concerning the laws and nature of the universe. Bacon states that when we come to understand parts of nature, we can eventually understand nature better as a whole because of induction. Because of this, Bacon concludes that all learning and knowledge must be drawn from inductive reasoning. So, that's all from my side. I have tried my best to explain of truth for you people. Stay blessed, keep listening, keep studying, keep reading. Have a safe and healthy life at your homes. Allah Hafiz.